Absolutely. And I was so excited by this giant crowd we have, every seat filled, and we have a big standing audience that I forgot that we probably should define alternatives to some extent, because we've only really been saying privates. How would you define alternatives?
I don't think there is no universal definition for it. Part of it is because the definition it's in the eye of the beholder, and it depends on what people are familiar with or accustomed to owning. Like real estate's a good example. Some might consider that like just a classic, traditional asset class. Others, maybe not. And so to me, it's more of a catch-all for anything not stocks, bonds, or cash. That's kind of where I start. When you start looking at the various, asset classes and strategies that people kind of put under that umbrella, what I find is that in most cases, there's some sort of connection to a traditional asset class with a little bit of a twist. And what you find are kind of three variables that make something that often we think of as traditional and kind of convert it into an alternative. So one is liquidity, and the classic example there would be private equity, which is similar to public, but just doesn't, it's illiquid, doesn't trade, or doesn't trade often, I should say. The other would be implementation. So things like classic investing strategies like value or quality or momentum that you often see in a long-only, construct, using tools like leverage or shorting or derivatives and implementing them differently in a way that kind of removes that traditional market beta exposure and leaves you with a different type of exposure. So implementation, and then the third being what I kind of think of as packaging. So I call this kind of old wine in new bottles, like things that have existed for centuries or millennia that are just now becoming more adapted because they're more readily available through things like interval funds or other fund structures. But examples being, private credit is obviously the hot topic today. Credit has been around for centuries in different formats. Reinsurance is another one it's a centuries old, business model. We just now have the ability to access it as a risk premium inside of a diversified portfolio. So there's a number of examples like that where it's not new, it's just new in the sense that we have the ability to allocate to it.